There's a new church on the horizon, made of light, not of stone, calling out to all creation, you are not alone. Lions and lambs, saints and sinners, best of friends, enemies, woman and man, losers and winners, they are all in you and me. We are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh, out in the cold, there are faces hidden by the wind and rain. Hold out your hand, someone will take it and bring you home again. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Around the world tonight, all the fires are burning, tears are falling from the sky, still the world keeps turning. We are one heart, one soul, one dream we share together. We are all a part. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh,
Good morning and welcome to Unity of the Blue Ridge live stream, and happy May. It is a gorgeous, beautiful morning, so whether you're tuned in with us right now, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, or some other time, I hope you are enjoying the beauty wherever you are. We like to begin our time together lighting a candle, and many of you I know are lighting a candle in your homes as you're watching. And just, allowing the candle to remind us that wherever we are, our lights are burning. And that you can extinguish a flame, but you cannot extinguish the flame. And so it is with our light and our lives today. I'm going to open with a prayer. We give thanks this morning for a beautiful day. We give thanks for this technology that allows us to come together from wherever we are. We give thanks for the positive changes that are emerging in our world. And we give thanks for the heart and the eyes to see those places of brokenness and injustice, the areas where we are praying and holding space for a better way. Today we explore that space that holds all of that. And so in the name and in the nature of all that is holy, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. There's that proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. Well, we're living out that proverb. We're certainly living in interesting times. And today, this week, I've been thinking about it as a cosmic reboot. And that's what we're going to talk about today during this time that we're living, how to really live and embody a committed sense of.
Good morning, Unity family. I wanted to say hello, and I also wanted to share with you what
that will really help us deepen and open to the presence that we are. But before I jump into the message, there's a couple of things. First of all, one of our members, Lisa Bruggeman, is going to share a little bit about what's going on with her now. And then a dear friend, Kelley Hunt from Kansas City, who's been here with us. She's just an amazing heart singer-songwriter. She's got a little short message and a song for us today. So enjoy, and I'll be right back.
To say hello, and I also wanted to share with you what I am doing to help keep my spirits up during this time. And the quote that just keeps coming into my life again and again, so I know universe is meaning for me to have it, is to control the controllables. And that means focusing on what I can do. I can't control what comes into my life, but I can definitely control how I respond to it. I can control if I'm setting myself up for a good night's sleep by turning the TV off early or drinking enough water and exercising. I can control being mindful about when I'm eating and being grateful for what I have. So that is what I'm doing, and hopefully I can shine light to myself from the universe so that I can reflect it back out to others. Have a great day.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be with you this morning, and I want to thank Rev Darlene for inviting me here. And she has encouraged me to let you know that on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time, I do what I'm calling a connection concert on Facebook Live at Kelley Hunt Music. So Kelley Hunt Music. So join me there. We have a nice online community, and I'd love to see you then. But this morning I have something special that I want to play for you. On a day like this, it all comes clear. What we've done before, what we're doing here. On a day like this, it all slows down, and what's been given comes back around. On a day like this, on a day like this. When love finds its way to you, like the stars, to light a path before you and show you who you are, to take you in his arms and give you one sweet taste of bliss. On a day like this, on a day like this, on a day like this, takes your breath away, gives you all you hope for, bright as this brand new day. On a day like this, on a day like this, when love finds its way to you, it shines like the stars, to light a path before you and show you who you are, to take you in its arms and give you one sweet taste of bliss. On a day like this, on a day like this.
On a day like this. Wow. On a day like this. What a beautiful way to start together today. There are three questions that have sort of been rattling around inside of me that really connect with our capacity to be a presence in this world, or as Jesus said, a light in this world. And those questions are, what is disturbing me? What is inspiring me? And what is mine to do? And if you're like me, and I know a lot of you are, I know I've talked to many of you and heard from many of you, there's a lot of things going on right now where we sort of vacillate between being disturbed and being inspired, of wondering if things will ever change, and really feeling an energy of hope of a new something emerging. There's a parable that shows up in the Bible. It shows up in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And anytime a story is told in a similar way in multiple Gospels, it's given more credibility as that it probably was something that happened, or a story that had so much within it that it was passed along from generation to generation and community to community. In this story that's found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, is called the parable of the sower and the seed. And so this parable of the sower and the seed, it talks about an individual who is sowing seeds, and the seeds fall on four different conditions, if you will. The first seeds, it says, are tossed out on the pathway, and the birds just immediately take them away. The second seeds are thrown on stony ground where they take root, but because of the stones, the roots can never go deep, and the sun scorches the plants, and so they don't last very long. The third seeds are thrown among weeds, and the weeds grow so thick and so much that they choke out the plants and they don't grow. But the other seeds in the fourth condition are the seeds that are sown in a place where the ground is receptive and the conditions are maintained in such a way that the seeds can come forth. Well, when we look at that in our life and we think about our presence, our life energy, these seeds represent our life energy, the seeds of potential, the seeds of good, the seeds of God potentiality in all of us, and what can happen to that life energy. And that first, that the seeds that the birds take away are basically our life energy that we just allow someone or something else to just take away. We don't have clear boundaries. We don't have a clear understanding of, what we're about and why we do what we do. And so that energy just gets taken away, essentially. And then there's the life energy that is put out, and yet there's stones. And rather than us taking the time to discover what are the obstacles within me, where are the hardened places within me, and instead of going deep enough to work through that, we just continue to plant seeds, and yet life seems to be at a surface and never really going deep. And then there's the third way. We all know what that saying means, that I was just lost in the weeds, that there's just so much going on, we literally feel lost in the weeds. And then there's that place where there is the conditions, there's the depth, there's the quality of soil, that our potential, the quality of soul, we could say, that our potential begins to bloom. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, that same point is made with a different story. And to sort of compare and weave those two, I want to share the Buddhist story with you. From the Buddhist tradition, there's a story of a king who was ruler over a kingdom. And the king had no family of his own, but the king was a very kind-hearted leader and really saw everyone in the kingdom as his family. As the king began to grow older, and he knew that it would soon become necessary for him to turn over the kingdom to a new leader, he put out a decree and said, anyone in the kingdom, whether you are rich or poor, whether you are male or female, whether you are educated or uneducated, anyone in the kingdom that has an interest in being the new leader, come and spend the day in my kingdom and then meet with me. And so that day, when that day came on sunrise, people came from everywhere and just flooded the kingdom, all walks of life. And in order that they could really approach him feeling equal, what he had planned for that day is, first of all, he opened up all of the pools and all of the ponds and told people, just enjoy. You can bathe in the pools, you can relax in the ponds, and just make yourself at home. He then opened up all of the wardrobes and said, go and find garments that are suiting to you and clothe yourself as you would like to be represented, the way that you feel. He wanted everyone to feel equal. And then he said, and I've prepared a feast. There's wine and there's food and there's music. And so people had merriment and food throughout the day. And so at 6 p.m., just an hour before sundown, finally the king had been waiting all day long, and he was so excited. And when the bell chimed and he walked out and was looking forward to meeting with any of those that had decided they would like to be a ruler, his heart quickly sank, because as he looked around, almost everybody was gone. And of the few that were remaining, they were asleep or passed out. And the point of that story is, can you stay awake to remember the purpose for which you have come? That just like the seeds, it's easy to get lost in the weeds. It's easy to get so distracted. It's easy to give our life energy away. It's easy to stay at the surface. It's a whole lot easier to do that and just keep throwing out seeds than it is to have to deal with what are the things that are in the way. And so what is it in our lives that is keeping us from staying woke, as Reverend Jim Lee would say? What is it in our life that is keeping us from creating the conditions that allow our potential to truly take root and bloom forth? Now, in the, sort of the backdrop of that understanding of how our life energy works, now I want to reintroduce those three questions and look at those. And in that context, to consider, what is disturbing me? What is inspiring me? And what is mine to do? That first question, what is disturbing me? I saw a pattern in particular this week. Maybe I just paid attention to it more, but I had several Zoom calls, other calls, interactions, and I was on one in particular, and the person I was talking with said that they're finding that they feel so much more sensitive than they normally do. They said, I'm usually pretty happy-go-lucky. I can usually keep a lid on it, but I am just so sensitive. I'm honestly having a difficult time. That very same day, I was talking to someone else, and they were talking about feeling more agitated than normal. They said, I'm in my house by myself, and I'm getting on my own nerves. I'm just agitated with everything. They also said, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm usually optimistic, but I'm honestly having a difficult time right now, were their words. And then I noticed other individuals that I talked to, a whole lot of people that I talked to said, personally, I'm doing fine. And personally, I'm a bit of an introvert, and I honestly don't mind this, except I know that there are a lot of people that are struggling right now. I know that there are a lot of people that don't have the resources or the things they need. I know there's a lot of injustice going on, and so I vacillate between feeling guilty and grateful. I try to feel guilty. I'm grateful so I don't feel guilty, but then if I feel too grateful, I feel they just go back and forth. And so I suspect if I could zoom into wherever you are right now and say, how many of you can identify with some of those feelings? I think almost everyone would say, yeah, I can relate to some of that. And in many ways, there's a lot right now that is disturbing. And life, in and of itself, is filled with things that are disturbing. And, for me, again this week, perhaps because I've been paying attention and bringing real mindfulness to this, I am noticing how many things are disturbing me right now. I have not gone out of my house very many times, but the few times I have, I had an occasion to go out twice this week, and I glove up and mask up. But I was disturbed to see the number of people that weren't paying any attention to that. I had to go drop my lawnmower off, and not a single other person had on gloves nor mask. I actually saw one woman with a sign that said, "Mask equals slavery." And very honestly, I wanted to go over and shake the woman and say, really? It was disturbing to me. It's also been very disturbing to me that I've seen images, one that came up in March, the capital of Kentucky, where a group of demonstrators, a group of men, white men, with assault rifles, went into the Capitol in Kentucky. And then we had a similar occurrence with different reasons, but a similar occurrence last week in, I believe it was Michigan. And heartbreakingly, and what is so disturbing to me about that is what I know to be true, is if those men, if the color of their skin was brown or black, or God forbid they were transgender, they would never have been allowed in. They probably would have been arrested, and quite frankly, you and I both know some of them may have been hurt. And that disturbs me. It also disturbs me that every evening I try to watch a little bit of the news to catch up on, the death toll. That's disturbing to me. Watching our administration, the escalation of deceit, of lies, of disrespectful action, of vengeful practices, of inciting violence, it's disturbing. And so often in the spiritual path, we are so quick to distance ourselves from what's disturbing, and for good intentions. But this is what really got to me this week. The scriptures often say that Jesus was moved to compassion. And I believe with everything in me, and we have evidence that it was a disturbing of his soul that eventually moved him to compassion. We know that he cursed a fig tree. We know that he said things to the leaders of the time who were trying to oppress others. We know that he turned over tables in the temple when he was making a point about an injustice. When I was in seminary, I was taught that the role of a spiritual leader is to be a source of comfort to the afflicted and to be willing to be a source of affliction to those that are too comfortable out of selfish means. And so within ourselves, being able to willing and recognize what is disturbing me. Now, the message doesn't stop here, and we can't stop here. And I know everything I said was just heavy and kind of a downer, but it's the truth. Margaret Wheatley wrote a beautiful article titled, Willing to be Disturbed. She said, as we work together to restore hope to the future, we need to include a new and strange ally, the willingness to be disturbed. Notice what surprises and disturbs you, and it can be very, very useful. There's a passage of scripture about the Apostle Paul who had a concern, and this shows up in 2 Corinthians 2:13, and you could paraphrase it like this: regardless of how hard I try to shake off this sense of inward disturbance, in my spirit I knew something was wrong. I tried to shake it off and let it go, but inwardly I knew things were not right. I truly believe we need to pay attention to what is disturbing me. And don't stop there. You know, I've made it a practice when I see these things and they disturb me. The question, and we will get to this in a little bit, becomes, but so what do I do about it? These are the seeds. Sometimes it's easy here to start casting blame. It is really, really easy, and it's a slippery slope to fall into us against them. Because I think I'm right most of the time, and you probably do too. There's a saying, the world is divided into people who all think they are right. But can we be disturbed without becoming a disturbance? Can we be moved and allow it to cause us to look around and to say, okay, I'm in some stony ground. I'm in some stony ground here. And what needs to be moved out? How do I need to see this differently? How do I need to respond? I told the story, and it bears repeating, that after it was in, I think it was in Charleston. Anyway, it was when one of the AME Zion, the African American churches, were having a service, and the young man came in and started shooting people. And that was in South Carolina, and here in North Carolina there was a lot of talk and things going on. It was it had just happened. And we went into a restaurant after, just a day or two after it happened, and there was just a lot of tension between black and white at the time. And this particular restaurant was a black-owned and operated family. It was a barbecue restaurant, and I know the owner and his family, and he knows me by name. And so when I went in, we talked a little bit. But I noticed his sister, who was also African American, went over and was working with a couple, and this man stood up when he got ready to leave, and he had on a shirt with a big Confederate flag. And of course, that was part of what was in the tension right then. And as I was sitting there, in the moment that I saw that, my face literally turned red. My blood started to boil. I got so angry. And my inner thought was, how dare you come into the establishment of black-owned people and wear something that could incite fear and all of these things? And so I had to just breathe and kind of talk myself back down that. But I knew I was disturbed, and I knew it was my responsibility to stay with that disruption so that I didn't add to it. Because you see, it is very, very easy if I start creating enemies, if we start creating enemies, if we start adding to the us against them, we're simply adding to the violence. That's just the truth. Whether we like it or not, it's the painful truth. And so as I sat in prayer and meditation the next morning with that feeling, and again, feeling bad that I felt that way, and still feeling angry and feeling like it shouldn't have happened, and then feeling this bigger sadness of why is our world like this? When I finally let it all out and settled down, I heard very clearly in my soul, Darlene, remember to separate the man from the t-shirt. For all I know, the man may have not even paid attention to what he put on. I don't know. I have no idea what his intentions were. And the truth of the matter is, that's not my business. My business was to be a presence of support, to be an ally. My business was to be of help if in that moment I needed to be. And I believe I was helpful in the presence in that time as far as being peaceful and prayerful. But when things disturb us, it's about becoming mindful of, am I creating an enemy? Am I against something? And as Rumi said, beyond all ideas of wrongdoing or right doing, there's a place, and I will meet you there. It's about sticking with that disturbance enough until I can begin to see the man with the t-shirt as my ally. I begin to see our political leaders as my ally. I begin to see the woman holding the sign that mask equals slavery as an ally. I begin to see us as one human family, doing our best and sometimes showing up as our worst. But I have to get them beside me and then put the issue out here. There are some issues in front of us. But we can't address those issues as long as we're making one another the enemy. And I am asking you, will you move out your own stones? Will you find the places where it causes you to harden? It causes you to actually have violent energy within your own self. And again, please hear me, I'm not saying that we need to get rid of these things. Human nature is to distance ourselves from what disturbs us. But the sacred path is to use it as grist for the millstone. The sacred path is to keep your eyes and your heart wide open. Because what I have learned over the years is that to the degree I can open my heart to the hurt, to the pain, to the injustice, to that which is wrong, to the degree that I can open my heart to that is the same degree that my heart is open to be an opening for anything. And so what is disturbing you? Are you willing to pay attention, to take ownership, to know what is disturbing me? And for God's sakes, don't go to sleep. Don't just leave. But be able to be with it in such a way that you find the space that is bigger than the disturbance. Which leads us to the next one. So again, the first is, what is disturbing me? And then the second is, what is inspiring me? You see, again, the scriptures talk about Jesus being moved to compassion, moved with compassion. That when something disturbs us, and hurt and injustice and seeing people suffering, it should disturb us. And so when these things move us, how do we stay with it long enough to enter into that space that can hold it, that can walk with it, and be of use? And a huge part of that is making sure that you are balancing yourself and your life with inspiration. Of asking, what is inspiring me? So many of you are inspiring me. Sharon Dunphy, I love your posts. They are so funny. Mary Kay Williams, I love that because you're not able to do your normal job, you're making masks for people. There's so many of you and so many people that are posting videos that are funny and inspiring and heartwarming. People are creating gardens who have never had gardens. People are checking on each other and their neighbors, and they're creating systems and ways to check on people that they've never done before. That's inspiring to me. This week, Dennis was a source of inspiration for me almost the whole week. Dennis Runk. I hope you heard the story. Dennis is a retired Kansas farmer who had 5 N95 masks. And he only needed 4, one for himself and one for his other 3 family members. He had 1 extra N95 mask. This retired farmer in Kansas City had been watching the news, and this was a couple of weeks ago in New York when they were going to the Jacob Javits Center and having to do makeshift hospitals. And here Dennis sat in Kansas and saw what was going on in New York, and so he took that 1 extra mask and he boxed it up and he wrote just a little note. And he addressed it to Governor Como, he said, because he could get his address online. And in his handwritten on a yellow notepad, he said the mask was left over from his farming days. He only needed 4. He had 1 extra. It had never been used. And he said to Governor Como, if you could use it, could you please give this mask to a nurse or doctor in your city? Well, Governor Como read that letter in one of his daily briefings, and he said it was a heartwarming example of humanity in a time of crisis. And Dennis, I hope you see this, and I hope you know the whole world says thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for realizing that 1 mask could make a difference. But you were an inspiration to me. And so to look around for those things, to say, you know, what inspires me? And so often people just feel like they have to wait to be inspired. No. We need to bring it on. Inspiration is something that kind of you generate. You look for things that inspire you. It's music. It's inspiring books. It's finding the good that is happening all around you. I promise you there's plenty. Just as there are things that are disturbing, there are far more things that are inspiring. That's the beauty of it. I also read a story this week about a city that's going to be opening soon, and there are 3 stores on one city block. There are 3 stores, and all 3 merchants basically sell kind of the same thing, so they compete with each other. Well, on Monday, the merchant on the east side of the street went in and began to get his store ready to open, and he put a giant sign in the window that said rock bottom prices. Well, on Tuesday, the merchants went in that owned the store on the other side of on the other end of that block, and they saw that sign, and so they, in their way of responding, created a big sign that said lowest prices in town. Well, on Wednesday, the 3rd merchant went in to get his store ready, and there he stood between lowest prices in town and rock bottom prices. And he said his first inclination was to fight back and to figure out how to do that, but because he was an individual that really wanted to come from a spiritual place, he said he stayed with it a while and really prayed about that thing and just started setting up his store. And then all of a sudden he chuckled when he saw an image of what to put. So again, the one over here is rock bottom prices. The one over here is lowest prices in town. He simply put a big sign that said, welcome, enter here. And I loved hearing that because there's wisdom and there's humor in that, but there's also brilliance in it. That when we seek to be a source of inspiration, you will be amazed at the ways and the means that will come through that will accomplish what needs to be accomplished, but in a way that is uplifting. So what is disturbing you? What is inspiring you? Find those things that are inspiring you. And number 3, what is mine to do? What is yours to do? Sometimes we forget that we are the sower of the seeds, and that ultimately it's our responsibility to maintain our conditions. Just as Lisa Bruggeman said in her video, you have to pay attention to what you can control. How can you keep your conditions from creating enemies? How can you keep your conditions from becoming hardened soil? How can you create your conditions from getting lost in the weeds? How can we create the conditions in our own soul, in our own life? Dear Abby shared a list of things that people had written in that she said were so obvious that she didn't even know how to respond to them. And one was the person who said, "Dear Abby, What can I do about all the violence, all the nudity, all the foul language that is on my VCR? Sometimes we forget the power that we have to turn things on and turn things off. The power and responsibility that we have in our life, that what is mine to do? You know, the most beautiful thing perhaps about a seed is a seed or a plant spore are considered opportunistic. They're just waiting for the opportunity. Interesting things about seeds, they have found seeds in mummies that are thousands of years old. They have found seeds in the pouches of shaman that are thousands of years old. They believe the oldest seeds ever found are 32,000 years old. They were found in 2012 in Russia. 32,000 years. But seeds that have been just sitting somewhere waiting dormant, waiting for the life force to have that opportunity to bloom. We have the opportunity every day to say, what is mine to do? As I recognize these things that are disturbing me, what is mine to do to seek out inspiration and to be a source of inspiration? What is mine to do? And do I believe that it makes a difference? The last point I want to make, the last little story, is about a man who was driving several years ago when maps were still alive and well. And he was driving and he was trying to look at the map at the same time, and you know that never goes well. And so he ran off the road and out of control, and he got his car in the ditch and he couldn't get it up and out. And so he got out of the car and he walked really just a short distance because there was a farm, and he walked up to the house and he knocked on the door, and an old farmer came to the door. And he said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but my car is in the ditch. Do you think you have a tractor or something you could help me get it out?" And the farmer said, "Well, yeah, let me get old Elvis." And he thought, old Elvis, that's an interesting name for the tractor. But he followed the farmer, and the farmer actually got this big old mule, big mule. He said, "Come on, old Elvis." And so he put the blinders on the mule, and he got his harness and everything on him, and he walked down the road, the highway with the guy till they got to his car. And he began to hitch up old Elvis to the car that was in the ditch. And then he got back and he got ready, and he said, "Pull, Warwick. Pull, Eli. Pull, Molly. Pull, old Elvis." And old Elvis just stood up and walked and pulled that car right up out of the ditch on the highway again. And the man said, "Wow, that was impressive. Thank you." And so as he was unhitching old Elvis, he walked over and offered to pay him. And he said, No. He said, "Well, I have a question for you." He said, "I was curious why you yelled out Warwick and Eli and Molly and it's just Elvis here." He said, Yeah. He said, "As long as he thinks he can do it, he doesn't mind pulling. But if he doesn't think he can do it, he won't even try." And I love that story because so often we don't think it's going to make a difference. We don't think we can do what we need to do. I'm here to tell you, you have the seeds within you to do what's yours to do. You are an opportunistic being. You are the light and image of God. Don't be afraid of what disturbs you. Let it move you to the space that's big enough to hold you and the disturbance. Let it be something in your life that causes you to pay even greater attention to what inspires you. I promise if you look, you'll see it all around. And to notice how you yourself can be a source of inspiration. And then to ask every day, what is mine to do? What is mine to do in this situation? And if that is the state of mind and the state of heart that you live your day out in that state, there will be opportunities that you are capable of showing up in a way that grows you deeper and that helps blossom everything around you. What is disturbing you? What is inspiring you? And what is yours to do? I'm going to invite you to turn your awareness within. We recognize that we are in a time as never before, that we could understand that this time itself is full of opportunity. It's opportunity for us to see perhaps things that we've become numb to. It's an opportunity for us to be willing to notice the source of what disturbs me. What are the mindsets behind that kind of action? But I will not turn it into an enemy. I will put any person beside me, and I will sort out the person from the issue. And I will begin to understand that when we can see the issues at hand, we can see our commonality and our differences. But it diffuses things. It opens us up to our creativity. And so may we have the eyes and the heart and the willingness to pay attention. May we never settle and condone or allow or fail to speak up. But may we come from a place of love and inspiration. And so we give thanks for how love is growing and inspiring so many things in our lives. May we have the eyes and the courage to seek out those things that would be uplifting and inspiring. May we have the courage to sit with our stones in the hardened places, to bring inspiration into those places, to bring the water of the soul. And may we be an inspiration as we are willing to mindfully live with the understanding and the question of what is mine to do. I don't want to fall asleep or go home and have forgotten the point of the journey. It's to be the leader, to be the sower of my one precious life. Being guided by the greater I Am presence. And so I join you in giving thanks. I join with you in remembering that you were born for this time. I join with you in knowing that greater is the Spirit within you, within me, within us than anything in this world. And I join with you in knowing that you have what it takes to do what will blossom and bring forth the goodness, the love, the light that your corner of your world needs from you. And so we say thank you. I say thank you. I say thank you. I say thank you. And I say thank you to you. I thank you so much for your attentiveness, your presence, for staying woke. I want to thank you for your emails, your cards, your letters. They mean a lot. For your videos, your pictures. I certainly want to thank you for your financial support. You've been very generous, and I'm a firm believer if each of us continue to do what we can do, we will come through this in a beautiful way. We sent out a first quarter newsletter, and I'm excited to tell you that we're getting very close. We're working with our lenders and hope to start raising the roof soon. Who knows? When we come back, we may have our new roof. So I want to thank you again for your diligence and your steadfastness, for our board and those teams that are working on Zoom. I want to once again thank Donna and Tia for being my co-champions here with me today, and for all of you, whether you're joining from near or far. We have two final pieces for you today. Ellen Winter, our board president, and her little ass family, her little donkey family, have a message for you. And then our amazing Cat Williams and our band, they're going to close with a song. So, namaste.
Ellen Winter, and today I'm here with Ashley Judd, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, and Princess Leia. And we're going to read a little bit from The Wisdom of Donkeys by Andy Merrifield. It's a treatise on finding tranquility in a chaotic world. There's something amazing about watching donkeys graze in the middle of nowhere. It's a kind of therapy, even a sort of meditation. You can both lose and find yourself. An Australian proverb says that when you watch donkeys in a meadow, don't forget your chair. You can observe them for hours on end. It's hypnotic and addictive. It's hard to drag yourself away once you're smitten. All you hear is a faint rustle as they shuffle through the grass and bury their heads in the earth, chomping away. I hope that this week you find your place of peace and knowing, and that part of that knowing is that even in our separateness, we are all together, with and in unity. Please remember to click the donate button on the Unity website to contribute your tithes and offerings in gratitude and support for this wonderful and loving Unity community that serves and supports us every day. Namaste.
Am I strong enough to bear the burden that sometimes come with living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decision when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own. Sing it with me! I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind or body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Sing it loud, sing it proud. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. shows up. This is where God shows up every day. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.